Greater Sandton and beyond. Get ready for the SANDTON Times Hour
with your host,
Alexander.
This is the SANDTON Times Hour on Mix 93.8 FM and is always available as a podcast on Apple, Google and Spotify. My name's Alexander Leibner and this is edition 95, week 49, as we move into the last week of November 2022. Then it's December, and then we do it all over again in 2023. If you want to get in touch, you can email editor@sandtontimes.co.za. You can connect on social media at SANDTON Times. And you can visit the website, www.sandtontimes.co.za. And we always welcome your questions, your comments, your feedback, and have you join in the weekly conversation. Thank you for making the time to listen wherever you are in South Africa, wherever you are in the world, wherever you are in Gauteng. A growing audience, and it's fantastic to have you switch in and listen in. And I'm happy to report that all is well in Sandton land. Vincenzo, looking good. Joining us behind the desk, making sure we sound good this week. And yeah, listen, Germany's getting through this World Cup by the skin of their teeth. My goodness, it's been some hair-raising games. I mean, that loss against Japan, then Spain. Oh, gosh, I don't even know what to expect from Costa Rica. But let's see. If you're listening live on Mix 93.8 FM, as always, you can get in touch via the WhatsApp line. It's always nice to hear from you. And I hope you survived Black Friday and Cyber Monday. Didn't really find anything interesting, I must say. I went out and had a little bit of a look around, see if there was anything that was a remarkable deal. I mean, for Black Friday, you normally want something that is an incredible deal, not just something that's sort of a so-so deal. And I can't say I really found anything interesting. I don't know. Did you find something interesting, Vincenzo? No. All right, well. The year is evidently winding down. I don't know. I get a feeling that this is now the last stretch, and I think it's going to really quieten down over the next 2 weeks. But what happened this week? Well, in my diary, I'm going to be chatting about the opening of a new karaoke bar in Melville, and I had a few minutes to go check it out this past week, but we'll talk about that in a minute, so I'm not going to go into too much detail. Then Skins Cosmetics, they launched a very high-end store in Hyde Park Corner this week. Very interesting. You know, this is sort of like, you know, you've got your normal mainstream perfumes that you can buy at sort of Edgar's and, you know, all kinds of retailers. And then you get the sort of super premium perfumes and fragrances, which are just on a different level. And that was quite an experience, having someone take you around and sort of explore a whole new world of fragrances. Then, talking about fragrances, Versace, they hosted a party at a mansion in Sandhurst. This was quite interesting. They launched a new fragrance called Dylan Purple. And you might have seen the billboards around town. And they decided to have a bit of a soiree at a mansion in Sandhurst. Not my kind of house, I must be honest. Jeez, this place is massive. Massive. I mean, the garden, I think you need like a small army to keep that garden intact. And never mind the house. I mean, I don't even know what kind of staff you need to keep the house going. And the maintenance. But anyway, nonetheless, it was quite a fun evening. And very interesting, also very insightful. Then Yves Saint Laurent, YSL, they hosted a discussion around their new campaign called Abuse is Not Love. And this is in line with the 16 days of activism against GBV. Gender-based violence. And then I learned a new word or new abbreviation this week called IPV. IPV. Intimate partner violence. And kicking off 16 days of activism against GBV and IPV. And then Highland Park Single Malt, they hosted a whiskey tasting in a whiskey vault in Ilova, which is open. I didn't even know this existed. It's like like a bank vault that you can walk into. Now just imagine opening this vault door and it's filled with single malt whiskeys and rare collectible whiskeys, and you literally can walk inside and sit down and they do these tastings in this whiskey vault in Ilova. Really great. I mean, it's a beautiful vault. And if you're a whiskey appreciator, if you enjoy sort of a tot of whiskey and you'd like to learn a bit more, this is quite an experience. I believe it's a members-based sort of initiative. So you might have to, kind of get a little bit more details on it. But this Highland Park single malt whiskey tasting was lots of fun. And then we had Julex 2022 at Monte Casino. It was it's sort of a jewelry shopping / exhibition experience that they hosted. Also hadn't happened for the last 2 years because of COVID, and they decided, well, let's get something going. And if you're into diamonds, if you like diamonds and jewelry and all these very, very beautiful things, well, that's something you could have done there. And I found out this week that Monte Casino's parking has increased, as a complete side note. Don't know if you knew this, Vincenzo. Remember, there used to be the days where you used to pay 10 Rand when you drove in, and there used to be somebody who used to say, "Buongiorno, welcome to Monte Casino." It's all changed. I think I paid $20, and there was no one who said "Buongiorno." But if you've got, I think it's one of these gaming / membership cards, gold cards. I think, Monte Casino's got they all have cards. I mean, everyone's got a card of some sort. So if you've got that card, I think you pay 10 Rand. But if you don't have one of these cards, you pay 20 Rand. 20 Rand is what you have to fork out before you take a breath of air, of Italian Tuscan air in 4 ways. Coming up on this week's episode, if you think you can sing, there's a new spot in town that allows you to unleash your inner Justin Bieber, Frank Sinatra, or Eminem. More on this in a minute. Then, it's the festive season and a time to enjoy some delicious treats whilst also supporting local, small artisan businesses, and I caught up with one of those. Next, it's finally time to kick back and wind down for the year, so I'll be taking a look at my streaming notes to share some interesting things to watch. Stay tuned for that. And finally, e-hailing is seeing a new entry into the market that caters to the security-conscious and comfort-seeking rider. All this and more coming up. Your headlines for the week are up next, but first, a bit of music to warm us up and get us going.
You're listening to the SANTON Times Hour.
This is the SANTON Times Hour on Mix 93.8 FM with Medusa and Tell It to My Heart, featuring Hosier. When you start dusting off those festive tracks, Vincenzo, when you start getting maybe a couple of December tunes going, we don't overdo it. I mean, I know we're going to hear a lot of the stuff in the stores, but maybe we need to start looking at some topical tracks that we can play over the next coming weeks. It's time for your headlines for this week. All we didn't want for Christmas is load shedding. Well, we might be lighting candles this festive season, but it's not going to be for festive effect. It looks like load shedding is still going strong. IOL reports that we will see level 6 load shedding before the end of the year, according to an energy analyst. This analyst believes level 6 load shedding definitely going to happen before end of the year. But again, I suppose there's a lot of speculation around what's going to be happening with load shedding. I mean, if we move to stage 8, I mean, there's always been talk about stage 8. We'd have 13 hours of load shedding a day. Can you imagine? Well, look, the load shedding app Eskom's a push. They said so far in 2022, we've had 124 days of load shedding. Now, if you work that out, that is a third of the year. So what is that? 33.3% of the year we've had load shedding. It's unbelievable. It is truly remarkable. And I'm not sure how much of this we can blame on all kinds of things that happened 10, 20, 30, 100 years ago. Then crime alerts. SANTON has seen an increase in commercial crimes. So these are things like, fraud and things related to business, which I suppose being the economic hub of South Africa, Gauteng, I suppose even the continent, those things are, I suppose, par for the course as well, or maybe not. And then also motor vehicle-related crimes, so theft out of cars and car hijackings. So I suppose during the festive season now, it's important for everyone to remain vigilant, especially now, and make sure your car's locked, make sure you don't leave things visible in the car. And then also when you drive around, just be conscious. I mean, the amount of people I see on their cell phones at intersections, never mind while they're driving, which is just unbelievable. I think I saw a woman the other day who was literally leaning on her steering wheel on the highway, typing a message. Please don't do that. That is absolute madness. And then something happens and people go, I don't know how that happened. And then 2023 public holidays. So if you start thinking about your 2023 public holidays, if you looked at your calendar, I know it's always a good time of the year, it's a bit quieter, you start going, let me see, do I have some long weekends? Well, we've put up a guide on the SANDTON Times.co today with a couple of hot tips, how to maximize your public holidays next year. So go have a look at that. Let's leave it right there for the headlines for this week. Up next, there's a new bar in town, and you're the entertainment. Ewoudt Cloute, owner of Karaoke Kong, joins me right after the break.
Connect with the SANDTON Times. Email editor@sandtontimes.co.za. Online, on air,
Anywhere, anytime.
This is the SANDTON Times Hour.
You're listening to the SANDTON Times Hour on Mix 93.8 FM. And this last week, I actually had the chance to experience something quite different and something that I quite enjoy, and maybe a little bit of background. So I've always enjoyed karaoke, believe it or not. That's always got a fun thing to do. And I've actually even gone as far as actually tracking down karaoke bars in different places in the world. So I've been to one in Amsterdam, I've been to one in Dubai, and I mean, they're always great fun. I mean, you always end up meeting a real fun bunch of people, and it's always a real great night out. I mean, it always ends up being a very memorable evening, nonetheless. So when I found out there's a new karaoke bar that's opened in Johannesburg, I thought, well, we'll go check it out. And I'm thrilled to be joined by Ewoudt Cloute. He's the co-owner of Karaoke Kong in Melville. And Ewoudt, how did you come about opening a karaoke bar?
Alexander, that is a very good question. I keep asking myself the same question. No, the story in a nutshell. So look, I think a lot of guys, have that dream since they're young to open their own bar and to own a bar. It's one of those kind of like pipe dreams that you just talk about. You either want to become a fireman, a doctor, or a bar owner. I think one of those three things. And I've always had a passion for entertaining. I remember when I was still young, I was big into entertaining my friends. I would always have these like extravagant parties at my house. So I think entertainment's always been in my blood. But why karaoke bar specifically is we were very keen on opening a bar. We saw the spot that was open in Melville. It had a stage, and we thought, actually, this is a great concept for Melville. There's a few bars in the area that do have karaoke nights, but no one is owning karaoke as a complete concept where it is karaoke 24/7. So we thought, let's give it a try and see how it does. Yeah, and the rest is history.
Well, you've just mentioned it is in the main road in Melville. So if people know Melville, it's actually at the top of the road on the right. Well, I suppose depending on what side of Melville you're coming from. But you can't miss it. It's Karaoke Kong. You've got a full setup there, and maybe to take people through it. It's a very Instagrammable space. I mean, you've really gone all out in doing some really nice decor. It's got a really nice ambiance. People can come there. You serve up pizzas, cocktails. You've got snack platters that people can enjoy. You've got the main stage, and then your waiter brings you a tablet. You can go onto this app, and you can basically go through hundreds and thousands of genres of what you would like. You click on the song, you add your name to it, and then the system kind of runs. And then it literally calls up your name on a screen. I think you've literally got 5 or 10 or 20 seconds to get up on stage, and then it's basically lights, camera, action, and the stage is yours. In some instances, though, there's a couple of people that the stage sort of accepts for a little bit too long, and you decide that your non-alcoholic cocktail might need a little bit more to drink.
Yeah, that's a very good summary of the setup. Look, Alexander, one of the things we wanted to make sure with the bar is that it felt very premium, and we wanted the experience to be very seamless. So in terms of what you mentioned about the experience with the tablets, that was very important for us. We didn't want it to feel like an old school karaoke bar where, you've got the big jukebox machine and it feels clunky. We wanted the whole experience to be very, very seamless. So that's why we went with the tablets. Even from a software perspective, we did lots of research to make sure that we have the best software and also the best selection of songs. In terms of the look and feel, that was also very important for us. We wanted to make sure that it stands out. And as you rightfully point out, I do think we've achieved that. It definitely stands out with all of its lights. We went for like a late 80s, early 90s, very retro theme. And yeah, it does seem like people are really resonating with the concept.
Well, what has the response been like? I mean, when we were there, it was well attended. I mean, it's not a massive space to fill, but I mean, it was still full nonetheless. What have patrons said about the concept?
To be honest, we've been completely blown away by the response. We actually completely underestimated the response, to be very frank with you. We opened up about a month ago now. Within 2 weeks' time, we had already had to invest in additional seating, additional tables, because we completely underestimated how many people would love the concept. I think something that's been really interesting to us is how people have just embraced the constant karaoke, because we thought initially that, okay, karaoke would be fine for a few hours an evening, but people are singing karaoke up until closing time at 2 a.m. And I think that was the biggest surprise for us, is people's capacity for enjoying karaoke. But I mean, from a business perspective, obviously a great thing.
Well, I think there's a song in that. I think it is called Closing Time, and I'm sure that's the one that they sing when it gets to that point. But, listen, I mean, apart from auditors and accountants hogging the stage, who else are you finding is gravitating towards this?
The diversity in our audience is also something that is really, really fantastic, Alexander. And we are getting young, old, all demographics, all cultures, all races. It's interesting to think like, okay, there would be a specific demographic, but it is so broad, it is so diverse. The one thing that we realized about karaoke is that it is quite an equalizer, which is very interesting because, anyone that comes on stage, as soon as you're on that stage and you're exposing yourself, you're connecting with the rest of the audience. And I think in a very vulnerable way. And because you are making yourself vulnerable, the rest of the audience is reciprocating, because they're like, oh, well, you being this vulnerable, I'm going to support you no matter who you are or where you come from. And I must say that's been one of the loveliest things. It's just to see that the diversity in the audience, but even in consideration of that diversity, how supportive the whole crowd is of each other. And that goes for the people that are great singers, as well as those that, maybe not are maybe not the best singers, if I can be a bit diplomatic.
I was going to say, I think the audience at sometimes is a little bit too gracious in terms of accepting what comes up on stage. But I do also realize that as the night progresses, a couple of cocktails later, it does make some of the singing a little bit more bearable than others. Now, tell me, what are some of the most abused songs that you guys have had to deal with over the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's also very interesting, because I think in your brain you kind of think there'd be a certain kind of few karaoke classics that would constantly come up. Yes, they do come up. One of them is The Killers. The Killers is a very popular band, and we're getting a lot of requests from them. But our top band and artist by far is ABBA. Probably not that surprising, but I think what is surprising is that is across demographics that we're getting ABBA. And I think that's been really interesting. Mamma Mia is a big one. Gimme Gimme is another massive one. There's a certain series of songs that we almost get every night, which has been very interesting, but it isn't always the songs that you would expect. But yeah, very interesting.
Well, given the great uptake, are there any plans to expand Karaoke Kong to come to other parts of Johannesburg? I mean, I know, in fact, the King Kong movie, I think Kong actually ends up gravitating towards the highest building in the city, which in Johannesburg terms would be the Leonardo in Sandton, but I'm not going to put words in your mouth. Where are you looking to go?
Oh, that's great, Alexander. Yeah, no, definitely we are very keen to expand. I think for now, we want to just make sure, because we've only been open for a month, let's just find our feet in Melville. But definitely, just based on the response, I've already received requests for people saying, like, where's your Sandton branch? Where's your Pretoria branch? So, no, I think because the concept, is so strong and people are resonating with it, no, we are definitely keen to expand. I can't put timelines on that now, but let's just say as soon as possible, for sure.
Well, there you have it. Ewoudt Cloute, he is the co-owner of Karaoke Kong. And if you're looking for a fun night out, especially now over the December break, also going into the new year, you want to take a team, you want to take a bunch of friends, listen, there's no cover charge. You go there, you get your food, get your drink, and have an absolute blast. We had an absolute lach that night. And like he said, the audience is very generous in terms of their support. And, go check it out. We're going to put all the details up on the SANDTON Times websites if you want to find out more as to where to find Karaoke Kong in Melville. We'll put it up there, and you can go check it out. And let us know what you think. Let us know what your experience is like. Tag us in your Instagram posts or your Twitter posts or your Facebook posts. And if it's a really bad performance, please don't. And let's take a quick musical break, and we'll be right back after this.
Back for more?
The SANTON Times Hour continues.
You're listening to the SANTON Times Hour on Mix 93.8 FM with Mr. Probes and Waves, the Robin Schulz remix. Taking you to the second half of the SANTON Times Hour, my name is Alexander Leibner, and you know how this works. If you're a regular listener, and if you are not a regular listener, this is how it works. If there's anything that sounded good during the show, but you didn't manage to get all the details, you didn't manage to jot it down, you can visit the show notes on www.santontimes.co.za for a detailed breakdown of everything discussed on this week's edition. And also be sure to check out the social media accounts at SANTON Times, and you can also feel free to engage there. You can send your messages, your notes, your DMs, your tweets, your whatever else people send these days. What do they send? So whatever works for you. And you can also use the hashtag SANTON Times Hour. Now, the festive season is almost upon us, and it's a great time to indulge in a variety of treats, only to regret it all again in January next year. But I see Johannesburg has a variety of really great Christmas markets popping up all around. And at one of these markets, I bumped into César Alvarado, and he's the founder and owner of Filigrana Authentic Peruvian Treats. It's an incredible morish biscuit. If you've ever tried one, if you haven't tried one, if you come across one, you're going to find that you have one, and then then the rabbit hole starts, because then you are in for the whole box, at least. So I decided to pull out my recording device and interview César right there and then. And I kicked off by asking him about his background and how he came up with this decadent recipe.
Okay, I am from Peru, from Lima. We are talking about 15 years ago that I arrived to South Africa for business as well, and happened to marry a beautiful South African lady here, meet her, and well, that is one of the main things that make me stay in the country. But I come in from an entertainment background, actually. I am a performer and an artist. And in one of my events that I also organize, I am the founder of South Africa's annual Latino culture, music, and food festival in South Africa with my wife. And in one of those events, pretty much the first one, in 2012, I decided, okay, let's save the day, let's make some Peruvian alfajores, which is the one that I all my life has been doing because of my family. It's a family recipe. So we started, and that is how people start calling me, hey, why you don't do it for Christmas? Why you don't do it for Mother's Day, for Ramadan, all that stuff. So that is how I started doing on and off, only for special occasions and big seasons. But at the same time, I was doing my performance, my events, my classes. I am a dance teacher, so I am a singer and entertainer in general, because I do a lot of, in Peru I used to do theatrical productions, all that stuff. And then the past 3 years for the entertainment industry was tough. So in 2018, out of nowhere, my wife and I decided, why we don't put Filigrana a little bit more forward, to invest more time. So that's what we did. And luckily enough, in 2019 and that happened in 2019. Sorry, in 2020, when COVID hit in, we kind of like have the database going on with Filigrana. That is what has been doing things like full time for the last pretty much three years. And yes, it's a family recipe that my granny pretty much gave me, with some certain modifications to adapt it to the South African palate as well. For example, it is egg-free, alcohol-free, nut-free, halal. Egg-free is perfect for the people, for the Hindus, the biggest community for when celebrating Diwali. The fasting is like this, with them. They don't eat egg, they don't eat etc. meat. There is full vegetarian. The same thing with Muslim people. Muslim people don't eat alcohol. It is fully halal. Yeah, so it's nice because actually cater and fit the dietary of pretty much everybody in South Africa. Yeah, and since then has been, thanks God, very, very, very successful.
Well, let's quickly just talk about Filigrana. So Filigrana is the brand name. As you mentioned, the actual biscuit name is alfajor. And for people who don't know it, it's a very, very soft, tender shortbread biscuit, and it's filled with dulce de leche. And I think the classic one has a bit of powdered sugar on top. And then you've also now done variations of it. I mean, it's unbelievable. You put it in your mouth, the whole thing just falls apart in your mouth, and you've got this beautiful dulce de leche that just sort of melts away. And you sell it in sort of 12 packs, in bigger packs and smaller packs. I mean, you've done a whole variation on it. And then you've got the different variations of the different biscuit, dunked in chocolate or whatever. It's one of those things that you feel like you have to just finish the whole box, because once you have one, you struggle to stop.
Correct. You described it perfectly. An alfajor is pretty much a cookie sandwich, right? It's made of two little cookies of biscuit, generally made of shortbread or another cookie, and with a filling. That is what an alfajor is. In Peru, we do it with dulce de leche, which in Peru we call it manjar blanco. It's the same thing, and with a dust of sugar on top. Now, this particular recipe, if you go to Google and you type alfajor, you're gonna get 2 million of ways of how to prepare an alfajor. It's as simple as that. Now, the filigrana way of doing it is the one that melts in your mouth. Is the family recipe that I'm telling you. That's why people get very like a surprise, because people that have tried alfajores before in South America, in Argentina, and Brazil, and Peru, they don't get the feeling that you get when you experience an filigrana alfajor. So it's very unique. It is very buttery. We call it melt in your mouth shortbread, because actually it tastes like shortbread, but it's buttery, melt in your mouth. And the filling is dulce de leche. Dulce de leche is a Latin American way of making caramel, but it's creamier. It's not as sweet as caramel juice. You do it in a pot. Well, we do it like 150 liters at any one time. It's a long time. It's at least 5 hours. And that it's a work of love. It's very slow. It's artisan work. That is what we do it. There is a classic alfajor, filigrana alfajor, the Peruvian way, let's say, with a sugar on top. Now we have the other variation. There is a chocolate coated one, which is exactly the same, only that coated in Belgium dark sweet chocolate. People tend to think that is bitter chocolate. People that doesn't like bitter chocolate, no, it is sweet chocolate that combine it perfectly and balanced, because it doesn't have the sugar that in the classic alfajor has. So we take away the sugar, but we sugar it with or sweeten it with the sweet chocolate. And pretty much that's two variations. In the projects, God willing, next year is going to be a whole range of different alfajores that are coming up, with people that enjoy nuts, with people that enjoy different fillings, flavored jams, flavored dulce de leches, different way of chocolates, white chocolate, milk chocolate. There is endless possibilities to coat, to top, or to fill an alfajor. So that is the adventure that I am looking forward to next year.
Well, you already mentioned very popular for Diwali, very popular for Eid. Now I've got Christmas coming up, so I mean already the sugar coating on top of the biscuit already gives it that very sort of like festive feeling. If people want to get a hold of a filigrana, where do they find them? Where can they get them?
Well, generally people get me online. If you go to my Instagram, it's Filigrana SA. People generally order through there. There is a whole drop-down menu with all the possibilities that you can get. There is the smaller boxes is a box of 6. I started making it like in individual and single first, but the people say no, it's a waste of time to get just one, because it's so. You just nibble it in a second. So we start doing it in 6 pack of 6 as the smaller one, and then you can get 12, 24, even the combos 3, 3, 6, 6, 4, 12, 12, 24, 24, up to a bigger package of 50. So when I tell you that, it's very popular for weddings, for functions, for we cater as well. We do live stations, like the same thing that I do in the artisan markets that we generally are.
Well, it's certainly a festive treat, something to indulge in, especially at the end of the year. And we'll put up all the information up on the SANDTON Times website as well. If you didn't catch the Instagram account or the website or where you can find it, we'll put it up on the website so you can go on to online afterwards. And César, thank you so much for taking your time to be on the SANDTON Times Hour. Yes, and good luck with the Filigrana Alfajor.
Online, on air,
Anywhere, anytime.
this is the SANDTON Times Hour.
Well, if you're anything like me, it's time to wind down for the year and catch up on a bit of, watching some things. I mean, if you aren't watching the World Cup, then I suppose, you'll be watching some other things. And streaming is all the rage, right? I mean, streaming is so 2022. We've all moved over to all these streaming platforms. And there's one that I've really been sort of dissecting quite a bit because they've got some great new releases. So I thought, let's have a look at this. And it's Netflix. And Netflix has brought out a whole bunch of great new things to watch, especially now during the festive season. And one of those, to kick off with, is Blood and Water Season 3. So if you haven't watched Blood and Water, quick summary. It's the story of these two girls who attend school, and they cross paths at a party in Cape Town. And the one gets the sense that the other one is potentially a sister who had disappeared / was abducted at birth. And she goes down this rabbit hole, this journey of trying to unlock the potential truth behind the stranger that could potentially be her blood sister. Unbelievably well done. It's a South African production. Great cast, great storyline. You really get sucked into it. And I actually don't want to tell you too much because it's every episode just opens up a whole new door of questions. And yeah, you got to watch it. Blood and Water. If you haven't started watching it, well, good for you. You've got 3 seasons to watch now. If you have been watching the last 2 seasons, or if you've watched them, you'll be happy to know that season 3 is out now. So that's a great one to catch up on. Then the next one is also sort of a documentary series, also very topical right now with the World Cup being on. It's called FIFA Uncovered. I suppose very topical now with the World Cup being on, but really delves into the history and into the proceedings and the things that happened over a period of time. They brought us to a point where it just uncovers the troubles around FIFA. And as much as we love soccer and football and the sport, this tournament that is probably the biggest sporting event in the world, and all the troubles we see in Qatar right now, well, it all started somewhere. And this series on Netflix, very well produced, very watchable, delves into that. Then talking about more troubled pasts, The Crown Season 5. Once again, if you haven't watched The Crown, it's the story of Queen Elizabeth II, told in a fictional dramatization. I suppose some of the stuff is based on real life, and then a lot of the dialogue, I think, for most, has had to be sort of reinterpreted and filled in because there's no sort of historical record of all these conversations that were had. But you kind of watch Queen Elizabeth's life from a young age through the decades. And what's quite interesting about The Crown is that they actually reinvent the cast for each season. So each of the characters, the Queen, the Prince, everyone that you know, is played by a different actor, actress in every single season. And to the greatest extent, they actually do a very good job with it. You know, you'd almost think like, wow, now I have to learn all the characters again. I have to now remember the different faces. But I must say, they've done an incredible job with it. If you haven't watched The Crown, once again, fantastic watching. You can start at season 1 now and binge watch it all the way to season 5. If you already watched it up until now, season 5 now delves into the 1990s, the tension between Diana and Charles. Also, very odd timing at this point. You know, having lost Queen Elizabeth II this year, Charles now king, and now going back to probably the most pertinent time in Charles and Diana's relationship, where things really started to unbundle. And then watching it in the context of where we are right now, but with Charles and Camilla sitting sort of on the throne. Very interesting watching that. Then Trevor Noah, he's got a new special called I Wish You Would. So if you enjoy Trevor Noah, if you enjoy a good laugh, some stand-up, some South African talent on Netflix, then you've got Trevor Noah to catch up on. And then here's another great one that I thoroughly enjoyed, maybe because I could personally relate to it, because I enjoy entering a good competition. And when I say a good competition, it's a competition where you have some sort of participation element. So it's not like SMS your name or SMS your number to this short code and we might or might not draw your name. So it's the kind of competition where you kind of have to do something, or you have to collect something, or you have some sort of influence in the outcome of the competition. And I've had my fair share of competitions that I've won where you've had to do something and have actually walked away with some really great prizes. And when I saw this one, I was like, wow, I totally relate to this guy. It's called Pepsi Where's My Jet? So let me tell you what a watch. Also a short documentary series, but also just such a fun one to watch. It's a story of the mid-90s. A young boy is watching a TV commercial, and Pepsi decides they're going to run a competition where if you collect 7 million Pepsi points, you can win a Harrier jet, which is a military-grade jet, not available to the average person that you can just walk into a store and buy one. And he figured out a way to get this jet and actually fulfill this. Pepsi had run this ad as a bit of a tongue-in-cheek opportunity. I mean, you could win T-shirts, you could win bags, you could win all kinds of things. And right in the end, they thought, okay, you know what, let's just take it to the nth degree and say you can also win a Harrier jet. And this young boy took it quite seriously. He got an investor, and they pursued this idea. Well, you can watch the rest of it. It ends up being an incredible story. It ends up making it into academic law books in terms of a case study as to how to deal with competitions and contract law. But if you're into competitions, if you're into watching something that is quite fun and quite frivolous and incredible in its own right, Pepsi, Where's My Jet? Go check it out on Netflix. And those are just a couple of things that you might want to catch up on during the festive season. It's time for a quick musical break, and we'll be right back after this.
Follow the SANTON Times on social media.
@SANTON Times.
You've been listening to the SANTON Times Hour on Mix 93.8 FM and also available on all good podcast platforms wherever you listen to it in South Africa and in the world. And that was Max Oazo featuring Cammy with Ain't No Sunshine. That must be a bit of a karaoke classic, that Ain't No Sunshine, but it's a great remake of that song. Well, as we almost wrap up another hour, I thought, well, let's have a look at a couple of new things. And we're always talking about apps. We're always talking about security. I mean, now we're going into the festive season, and there's a couple of links there. And there's this new app that I came across, which is quite interesting. It's called HAILO. And it's sort of a blend between security, between e-hailing, especially now, people going out, people going on holiday, they need to be transferred. And, we've had so many debates about sort of the state of e-hailing in South Africa. And kind of, I must be quite honest, I'm at the best of times always a little bit concerned and worried about sometimes using e-hailing services, especially if it's in areas that I don't know, or if it's, you never know. Like it might be your unlucky day and you end up getting picked up by the wrong person and get into all kinds of odd situations. So I thought, here's an interesting new business that's come along. And I thought, let's get the founder and director of HAILO on the line, and that is Gareth Katzew. And he's also the chief executive officer of a company called NSA Security Consultants. And Gareth, just to kick things off, just explain the correlation between those two businesses. How sort of a shuttle / e-hailing / sort of transfer business and a security company, how they fit together.
Our background is in very high-level security services. We're a boutique security company that's been operating for about 23 years now. We serve a very high-end LSM. So most of our clients are people of prominence, some of the most prominent people in the world, as a matter of fact. Chief executive officers of sort of Fortune 500 companies, et cetera. So we are very accustomed to playing in that space. We've been providing executive protection and high-level security consultants for the last 23 years. We operate in about 23 countries around the world. HAILO was just a concept that came to us. A lot of our clients are expats, and a lot of them are based in the States. And we saw a need, a bit of a gap in the market where there was a big reluctance on their part to utilize conventional e-hailing services. I think a lot of the incidents that have occurred over the last, let's say, 24 months or so have been quite publicized. Some very significant incidents of people getting robbed, women being assaulted, et cetera. And, more than that, there's a lot of incidents that aren't publicized. So people being scammed and that sort of thing. And I think that's created a very big distrust, particularly around the expat community, who are traditionally a lot more security conscious than South Africans. They come here with a lot of preconceptions about crime and how severe it is, et cetera. So on that basis, we kind of saw a bit of a gap in the market where we thought, we currently serve these people, but there's not always a need for them to procure a executive protection officer, which is sort of in layman's terms, a bodyguard. There's cost implications to that, and sometimes it's just not necessary if they look, let's say, their house to the airport to do a Cape Town visit or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, we started thinking about how we could come up with a more cost-effective and accessible service. And that was kind of the genesis of HAILO. So we looked at it, and initially the idea started as a concept that would be based in estates, so luxury high LSM estates where a lot of these expats live. And thankfully, it was kind of derailed by COVID, where we put it on the back burner. We had a lot of other things to focus on. And, that period kind of allowed the idea to evolve to the extent that we thought, why are we not, this is not just a problem for expats. This is an issue for everybody in South Africa.
Well, let's just tackle that. So when you say high-end estates, I think at the moment you've got a predominant base in Steyn City, Fourways area. Is that correct?
Correct, yeah. So we're currently servicing Steyn City and the surrounding estates. But the service is available for anyone in the northern suburbs of Johannesburg.
So I download the app, I load my credits on there, I suppose like I would with many other sort of service apps. And then does it work like a traditional e-hailing service where I can see if there's a driver close by, or is it very much based on the fact that I need to schedule those transfers, like you were saying, airport transfers, or maybe I've got a company function coming up and I know it's happening on Thursday, so I can already schedule the driver for 7 o'clock to pick me up and pick me up at midnight to take me home? Kind of how do the mechanics work?
So we've touched on both of those requirements. We have an on-demand function. So if you look at it, it looks exactly like a conventional e-hailing app. You're able to order rides on demand. So in other words, if you have somewhere to be immediately and you need to order a ride, you can do that. And the driver will be there as long as it takes for them to get from sort of Fourways area to wherever you are. Or you can do the scheduled function. And the reason for that is obviously because, you've got people that are particularly from an airport perspective or attending functions that attend a function, have a set time that they need to be collected, and they can schedule that long in advance. So it basically caters for both requirements, both on demand and schedule.
And all the drivers, they work for you. So it's not the sort of traditional e-hailing service business model where a driver has a car, he registers with the system, and then he's basically like a freelancer or like an independent I suppose consultant
contractor.
Or contractor, yeah. Is this everyone works for HAILO, is that right?
Correct. So, some of the major key differentiators are, number one, first and foremost, that this is a security service.
Right.
So it's very much a service that is security-centric and kind of customer-orientated from a luxury and comfort perspective. The next key differentiator is exactly that the drivers are all vetted, trained, employed by HAILO. So they are permanent employees, they are managed, they are supervised. It is available 24/7, so, it's available at any time, but the reality is these are not contractors. These are people that have undergone rigorous vetting, to the same level that we would do in the security space, where obviously, you're dealing with a lot of sensitive information and very high-profile people. So our vetting is very strict. And they've been trained. These are guys that have been trained in security awareness, anti-hijack awareness, defensive and evasive driving techniques. So these are not just independent contractors that have registered on a platform. These are our people that have gone through all of the checks and balances that we put in place.
Well, there you have it. Gareth Katzew, he's the Chief Executive Officer of NSA Security Consultants, but also the Founder Director of HAILO, a new, let's call it a new e-hailing option. Something new that you can book with an app if you need a transfer, if you need a shuttle, and a very interesting, I was going to say unique South African solution, but as you were saying, a big footprint around the world as well, and it might be something you might want to check out over December, maybe going into the new year, if this is something that you make use of a lot. I thought that was quite fascinating. Something that you don't get to see every single day. Well, that's it for another SANDTON Times Hour on Mix 93.8 FM, and is always available as a podcast on Apple, Google, and Spotify. You can get in touch with the SANDTON Times if you want to email editor@sandtontimes.co.za, or you can connect on social media @SANDTON Times, or visit the website www.sandtontimes.co.za. And feel free to send through your questions and comments. Also welcome your feedback as always. Thank you to all our guests for this week that made the time to be on the show. And Vincenzo, thank you so much, man. It's almost December, so it's almost a bit of a break, I think. But thank you for always doing such a great job throughout the year. And thank you to the SANDTON Times team as well as everyone at Mix 93.8 FM. And thank you for listening. And let's connect again next week.
That's it for this week. Thanks for listening to the SANDTON Times Hour. And if you enjoyed it, be sure to share it.